All right, this one is for day 8, page 42 to 45. We'll see how much we get done. Maybe it will be 2 videos, maybe it will be 1 video. Now, this is page 42. For this one, it has a problem that says at Madison Middle School, 60% of the 800 students participate in music. 60% of the 800 students. So the magic words here are of the 800 students. This means that 60% and 800 go together. They're going to be paired up. And we'll explain that one later. Um, Actually, no. Scratch that. Scratch that. Sorry. That's the next page. I'm getting a little confused. Is it the Spanish video? That's is this part? But sorry about that. Right here, it's saying 60% of the 800 students participating in music. There's 800 students in total. 60% of those students is what we're trying to find out. Right here, they actually make you put the 800 students equal 100%. They don't put 800 on top, but if you skip 8 by 80s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you multiply by 10, you get 800. So this would be 800 students. And I want you to find how much 60% is, which would be around here. But instead of doing in this double number line, it says you can actually do it as a multiplication sentence. If you don't remember, the word of means multiplication. So 60% multiplied by 800. But you don't multiply the number 60 by 800. You have to make that into a fraction, and then you have to make that fraction. Well, you can multiply by fractions, but it's much easier to do it by decimal. But I'll explain that part when we get here. But the trick is to multiply the percentage by the number. But let's see what our question asks us to do. Number 2 says, in the bar model, how many groups of 80 make up 60%? So 60% is right here. How many groups of 80? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Count them all the way to 60%. How many is there? Number 3. Using your answer to number 2, what is 60% of 800 students? So 60% would be here, and you want to find out how many students that would be. So you would have to count like 80, 160. You can count them up, add them up, or you can multiply them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have six of them, and we multiply that by 80, and it'll tell us how many students of the school participate in music. That's for number 3. 60% of 800 students. We have 6 groups of 80. Number 4 says the expression from the previous page is shown below. Fill in the blanks to show how to multiply. So that 60% is this 60 over 100, and then so it's 60 over 100. That's that 60%. 60% means this. It just means this, 60 over 100. But you multiply that by 800, how many students you have. This number will tell us how many of 60% of the total are in music. But remember, whole numbers need to have a 1 in the bottom when you multiply them by fractions. So when you do this, you do 6 times 8, which is 48. Then you add the zeros. 6 times 8 is 48. Then we have 1, 2, 3. We have 3 zeros. So we have to add 3 zeros. Then we do 100 times 1, which is just 100. Now, easiest way, divide it in the calculator. 48,000 divided by 100. We should get 480. Now, when you do this, in 5th grade, we learned this trick that when you divide by 100, there's an invisible decimal here. So when you divide by 100, you have to move the decimal this many times of the zeros that you have. We have 2 zeros, so we have to move the decimal twice. 1, 2. We have to move it here. That means the number becomes 480, just like our answer did up here. It's just that there's no decimals and 0 here. It's the exact same number. But when you have these division problems, remember, you can use this trick to help you find the answer without actually using a calculator. But when we put our answer, we can say that this would be the answer, or 480 when we put it right here. Number 5 says explain how to find a percentage. How to find the percent of a number. Whenever you're finding a percent of a number, so in this problem, it was 60% of 800. When you explain how to find a percent of a number, you multiply the percentage by the number. I don't want to write the word. So if it's 60% of 800, we would do 0.60, the percentage I guess we multiply the decimal by the number. So the percentage turns into a decimal. So 60% times 800. And when we do this, we get 480. Number 6 says, imagine that 55% of the 800 students participate in music instead of 60%. How could you use the idea of halves with the bar model to find 55% of 800? Now, this is why I don't like the way the book explains it. It says 55% is right here in between. So if you're putting this in half, what's half of 80? It's 40, right? So you would have to add 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus this 40. It takes a lot of work. If we're finding 55%, you're just multiplying 0.55 times that number you're trying to find of the 800. So instead of doing the whole drawing, we can just multiply this and we should get our answer. But if you are using a double bar model, you can split these in halves. And for example, if half of 50% is 55%, 55% would use half of 80, which is 40. Same thing for 75%, half of 80 is 40. You would have to count all of this up. But it's asking you, how would you find the answer using that bar model? So it's up to 55 right here. So let's count 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 8 times 5 is 40, so this is 400 so far. Plus 40 more is 440. So we would say that 440 students would be in this music, participating in music in this imaginary scenario. Now for number 7, you have to solve this on your own. So I'm going to give you an example of how to solve it just with different numbers. So let me erase this real quick. All right, so number 7 says Charlie wants a new pair of shoes that cost $40. His mom pays 75% of the cost and Charlie pays 25% of the cost. How much do they each pay? So I'll give you an imaginary problem. $50 is what a controller costs. The mom is going to pay 70% of the cost, and the son is going to pay 30%. Now let's do the daughter, the son. And the daughter will pay 30% of the control. How much will each one pay? So for the mom, if she's paying 70%, she's going to be doing 0.70 times $50. The answer would be 35. That means that she would pay $35 of the total amount. For the daughter, she would pay 30%, so it would be 0.30 times how much the controller costs. And I guess I'll draw like little wannabe controller over here. Oh, this is the control. Anyway, for this control, it's 30%, so 0.30 times how much the control costs, $50. This would mean that the daughter would pay $15. When I add the two amounts together, it gives me $50 the total. So what you have to do is, this mom, she's paying 75%. So you're going to do, instead of 70, you're going to do 75%. And instead of being a $50 controller, you're going to be doing a $40 pairs of shoes, $40 pairs of shoes. Instead of doing it 0.30 for the daughter, you're going to be doing it 0.25 for Charlie. But you need to multiply that by 40. Right here, I made up the problem. Remember, I used made up numbers, but this is how you should show your work to solve for number 7. Now for number 8. Whoa, that is a bad 8. So an example. I should put example, I guess. Yeah, example. A school will have a fall festival with at least 40% of the 500 students plan to attend. How many students must agree to attend in order for the school to have a festival? So let's make up an AIA problem. 30% of the kids have to go to the dance in order for the dance to happen, and there's 200 kids. How many kids from the school need to go in order for the school to have the event? If I was doing this problem, I would have to do 0.30 times 200, and that would give me 60 students. So in this scenario, you need to multiply the percentage by how many students there is in the school, so you know how many are planning to attend. Let's go ahead and go to page number 44. In this problem, this time they're saying that Enrique wants to buy a video game that costs $24, but he only wants to spend 40% of his savings. So he wants to buy a video game that costs $24, but he only wants to spend 40% of his savings. How much must Enrique save in order to buy the game? So Like, let's say this kid had like $100, and he only wants to spend 50% of his savings on a game. How much does the game cost? The game costs $50. Um, if he had $90, um, if he had $90, um, he no, that's a bad way to explain it. Um, the $24 is how much the game costs, but he he doesn't want to spend all the $24 he has saved right now. But he knows that that's 40% of what he wants to spend. I know it's weird. The amount right here, the 100%, is how much he has saved. Like, for example, it might be 70, it might be 50, it might be $80, but whatever he has saved, 40% of that number is 24. So whenever you do these problems, they're going to be a little bit tricky because the last one asks you just to multiply this number by this number, but this time the trick's going to be backwards. This time you're going to be doing 0.40, uh, and that 0.40, that 40%, is going to be divided into the 24, like this. 24 divided by 0.40. This is a shortcut way of doing it. The book's going to have me explain this long version to you, but essentially this is a short way of finding it. 24 divided by 0.40. And you do this in problems that only give you like an amount and tell you that's only a part of it, and then they'll tell you how much is it, for his entire savings, or how much is it for his total. I know it's tricky, but let's solve this problem, and then I'll show you an example of what's a different question that might show up. But all it does is it make sure 24 is a dollar amount is paired up with the 40%. And what they do is they divide 40 by 10 to get 10%. I'm sorry, they divide 40 by 4 to get 10%. 40 divided by 4 gives them 10%. And in math, if you do one thing to one side, you have to do it to the other side. They do 24 divided by 4 as well, and it gets 6. That means that 10% is $6. They did that by pairing these two up like a ratio and then dividing it by the same number. So now they're in the double number line with 10%. They did that because now they can do a table where it's $6 to 10%, and they can kind of skip count. 6, 12, 18, keep going. And eventually you would get to 100. So 10 times what gives you 100? 10 times 10. 6 times what? 6 times 10 will give you how much 100% is, which is the answer it's asking you to find. But let's see what it's asking you to answer right now. Number 9 says, look at the table in the double number line. How many dollars is 10% of the total? 10% of the total is $6. How many times greater than 10% is 100%? So like if we want to get to 100% from 10%, what do we multiply it by? How many times? 10 times. 10 times. Oh, sorry. So how many times greater than $6 is a dollar amount that equals 100%? This is a weird way of wording. If I wanted 100%, how much money is that? 6 times 10, that'll give you the answer. Number 10 says, look at the double number line. Using the ratio 6 to 10, explain how you can find an equivalent ratio that has 100 as the second quantity. For this one is asking you, how do you get from this 10 to this 100? What do we multiply by? So it's like doing this, but the way we do it is like this. So they're asking you, how do you get from 10 to 100? The way I showed you was, well, we multiply by this. And if we do it to both sides, that means it would be 60. But right here, we would say we multiply by 10 to answer this question. Number 11 says, how much does Enrique have to save in order to buy the game? He has to save $60. What does the answer to the problem mean? Fill in the blanks to help you understand. 10 times what gives you 100%? 10 times 10%. And 10 times $6 gives you $60. So if $24 is 40%, then $60 is 100%. So 40% of $60 is $24. You can use what you know to find the percent of a number to check your answer. So fill in the blanks right here. The 40% becomes 40 over 100, and you multiply that by 60 over 1. But when you do this, we get 240 on top and then 100 on the bottom. When we divide this in the calculator, we get 2.4, or $2.40. Um, that means that the problem can equal 240 over 100 or $2.40. Um, that doesn't make any sense. 40% of $60 should be 24, not $2.40. Oh, I messed up here. 2 zeros. 40 times 60 should give us 2 zeros like this. So we should divide it like this. When we divide this, we get $24. So 40% of $60 is $24. So we can say it's 2400 over 100 or $24. Now, how can you find the whole when you know part of the percent? So right here, how can you find the whole when you only know part of the percent? So if we only know it's 24, how do we find the 60? Because we're trying to find the 60 from this number, 24. But we know that it's only 40%. The original problem said that $24 is only 40% of what he wants to spend. So if you want to find the total here for this answer, how do you find the whole? We do 24 divided by the percentage. But we would write it's 24 divided by 0.40. When we divide this, we get 60 as our answer. Now, number 15 says 150 students at York Middle School took part in the school cleanup. This is 30% of the school's total students. How many students go to the school if 30% is only 150? For this one, you're going to have to do 150 divided by the percentage. Once you do this, you're going to get a number that's greater than 150. But that number is going to be the total number of students that go to the school. Don't worry too much about all these steps here in the double number line and the ratio tables. Maybe this one, like to figure out how do you skip count, like if it's times 10 here, it's times 10 here. But most of these problems, you'll be able to actually solve by either dividing by the percentage or multiplying by the percentage. You just have to get used to the word problems, but the next pages should have good practice with those. That's it for page 42 to 45. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next video.